kuunga mkono. Tunaomba heshima kidogo.
Kama ingekuwa jamii ya Mount Kenya ikiongozwa na naibu wa rais Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua, atungepata 51%.
Na hii watu wanaanza kukoroga naibu wa rais na rais. Tumesema masiku yenu yanahesabika na imefika mwisho.
Wale ambao wanafikiria labda wanataka kutusitusi naibu wa rais, ati watishe, ati wafinye yeye mpaka atoroke, ndio ati 27 wabadilishe. Hiyo sisi tunasema naibu wa rais hai ni Rigathi Gachagua. Naibu wa rais 2027 ni Rigathi Gachagua.
Wajukuu wangu endeleeni kula, watoto endeleeni kula mpaka mimi nitoe ile bani ya migoka, kwa sababu naogopa sherehe. Sidhani kama tutaenda sawa sawa namna hiyo.
Hakuna dini yoyote ambayo kwamba imeruhusu matumizi ya kitu ambacho kinadhuru. Sawa, hata hicho chakula.
Ushuru pandishwa migoka. Lakini wewe hata akipandisha huo ushuru, bado atapandisha bei ya migoka na miraa, na watu watakiwa wakinunua.
So coffee is basically exported. You know, so most of the bonus arises through to the export price. We have the exchange rate also. The issue of the foreign currency comes in. So it's a bit tricky in the sugar industry, because sugar industry basically is for local consumption.
I really don't see how practical it is to implement bonus. You know, sugar sector is struggling. So if you bring also so many changes, you cause even confusion within that particular sector.
We need to look at sugarcane as a special crop. You don't mix it in other crops and give it special attention. So for me, the framework still has a problem.
And as a party, we have said our dream is to have a monolithic party which is going to outlive its current leadership. Is to have a party which is founded on ideologies, is to have a party which has got the vision of the country at heart.
Tunazungumza kuna majadiliano ya maja. Okay? Sheria ya vyama, Political Parties Act, inakubali political maja.
When you hear the ANC, our ANC counterparts, offering a suggestion on having a merger as opposed to dissolving their party and joining us, we come with an open mind. We say, okay, can we now advance that talk? But our suggestion is it possible that we already have a strong party in the name of UDA? Why should we dissolve a strong party in the name of UDA to start another party, to start selling another brand? So these are some of the things that we shall be putting on the weighing scale.
Wengi walifikiri wakati tulileta earthquake kwamba tumepotea. Ni sisi ndio tumeunda serikali. Kwa hivyo nikiambia watu kwamba ANC ina mazungumzo ya maja, msifikiri ni kitu kidogo. Tunalenga mbele.
It is never good when parties merge into one unit. Believe you me, we're going to have factions.
Is it in the interest of William Ruto that these parties fold? No, because when you fold Ford Kenya, for example, you are rendering Honorable Moses Wetangula almost irrelevant in the politics of Western Kenya, and particularly the politics of Bungoma and Tanzania.
And this country is made up of regions. Regions are made up of counties.
Our counties are doing very well on the issue of farm inputs and seedlings. We have turned around the curve, improved our agriculture, managed the cost of living, and you all agree that generally Kenya is on the right path. We are doing well almost on all areas.
Ukiona hata sekta yetu haina Mkikuyu, ujue kuna shida. Kwa sababu hao Wakikuyu ni watu wa maajabu. Na hiyo ndio mfano mzuri ndio tuweke katika taifa la Kenya. Ukienda Lodwar utawapata. Ukienda Mombasa utawapata. Ukija Eldoret utawapata. Ukija hapa Kakamega utawapata. Si kweli jamani? Ndio tunataka tushikane. Hii maana kusema sisi ni watu wa Mount Kenya, sisi watu na mlima, hiyo maneno tuache. Is there anything wrong with us forgiving one another? That is what we as practicing Christians, that we forgive one another. I don't know why anybody would have a problem if I forgive my brother, I forgive my sister. Let's all forgive each other.
And specifically myself, I ask for your forgiveness. I also know that serving as deputy president, I may have fallen short of expectations of my boss, His Excellency the President, my good friend, I ask for your forgiveness.
Our client has been constituted Friday, even against the express orders of the Honorable Justice report, which we serve. So I received court. He's arrested blatantly against those orders. And they had all that time, even do a mental assessment of him. Doctors, rather hospitals, work, over the weekend.
All right, don't gamble with tax. That is what we have inside the Standard today. And we had different industry players there raising their voices. And that was the 5th day of a public financial bill hearing that kicked off yesterday with the legal community decrying the possible impact to business and livelihoods should the bill be enacted as is. The insurance sector submitted that the introduction of the taxes will hurt an already burdened insurance sector, noting a fairly low 2.3% penetration rate in Kenya compared to other countries. And according to the Petroleum Institute of East Africa, the taxes will reverse the gains the country has made in terms of greening public safety and social protection. Here's more. All right, we'll give you that story much later, just a bit of technical challenges there. But let's just begin there, Honorable Kongo Mogini, with the taxes. I know you weighed in a bit also on the tea before. We have the Finance Bill 2024-2025. I've not gotten your reaction since you've not been here, since this was actually put in the public gallery for debate. And I wonder what has been your input, if you're intimately familiar with some of contentious issue there that you think that should be raised. We have people raising qualms from the aviation sector. We have the insurance sector, as we've read as well. But let's just hear some of the sentiments that now we've got in that particular clip. Just before you go on, let's just hear, I have the clip right now.
Make tax compliance easier for taxpayers. Let us take one day in a month when all the tax payments are going to be due. If it is your pay as you earn, your withholding tax, all the taxes that are due, give taxpayers one particular day to pay all the obligations, as opposed to making them pay their tax obligations almost on a daily basis.
The way it's designed, it's likely to have a massive impact, not just on everybody, but more specifically on the logistics industry and on the insurance industry. So if additional revenue is to be generated, there is a more efficient way of doing that without levying the motor vehicle tax.
The proposed amendment is to amend the Income Tax Act to introduce that motor vehicle tax. And now the question is, the Income Tax Act essentially is for income generated, and so that is now what we're trying to grapple with and find how then best we, even if we were, then how do we make sure it's properly anchored in law. The stakeholders are also concerned about the language that is used, where sometimes the language that is used end up being subject to interpretation by KRA, and most of the time the interpretation done by the KRA is usually to the benefit of KRA, not necessarily to the benefit of the taxpayers.
Right, Okongo Mogini, those are the reactions from the industry players there. And so the finance public hearing has begun in earnest. Do you think we're going to have the same circus that we did with the 2023-2024 as well?
The problem is Parliament, the way we know it. The Constitution says Parliament as an entity, that's National Assembly and Senate, essentially the people's representatives. So when you see a proposal, tax proposal should find its way to Parliament. Parliament should engage the citizens, engage in public participation, and then sit back to ensure that they comply with Chapter 12 of the Constitution. Chapter 12 is very clear that any taxation regime that we have as a country must be fair. And Dibal, if you follow world all over, taxation is normally a very key issue in any campaign. If you are following the campaigns going on in the US between the Labour and the Conservatives, Sunak is promising the British people that I will not increase taxes, count on me. Starmer, the leader of Keir Starmer, the leader of the Conservatives, the Labour Party, is also giving an undertaking to the people of the British people that I will not increase taxes. How I wish that we would have told Kenyans that once you elect us, we'll tax you till we finish you. You will see pain of taxation like you have never seen, ever since this country got independence. So when you listen to the key players in business complaining that we are day by day making the burden of taxation too heavy on Kenyans, they're saying a reality. Anybody who wants to be an investor, the first thing they will tell you, I've been consulted before when I was in serious practice. The first thing they will ask you is, give us a summary of your taxation regime. Why? Because they want to see whether you are a competitive destination in terms of the tax incentives that you provide. If you look at the way Dubai has grown in the last 15 years, and if you read their Vision 2030, they are not thinking so much about how they are going to tax the people who reside in Dubai. The incentive is to make Dubai an attractive destination for investors, for businesses. They want to make it cheap to run business in Dubai. And that's one concept that our president has not understood. I don't know who is his advisor, but he thinks that the best way to raise money for a country is to tax the poor, those who don't have. You know, some of the issues I have, the problems I have with this tax is the fact that the government continues year in after year to introduce new taxes without corresponding increase on salaries. The teacher that you are telling you are going to tax 2.5% motor vehicle circulation is the same guy you have taxed on housing levy, is the same tax you have taxed on social health insurance fund, SHIF, is the same guy you have taxed on increased NSSF contributions, is the same guy you have taxed on increased pay as you earn, and now you are telling the same guy that for that car that you bought on loan, that you are using as a teacher, I'm again going to tax you 2.5% circulation tax on the value of that car. That burden is too much on the employees who are taxpayers for the government. So I can see this taxation regime is going to have two effects. One, we're going to create a stressed and a very unhappy workforce in the country because everybody, I'm sure even your employer wants to see an employer who is happy, who is given a salary that is commensurate with the work you are doing. But the way the payslip is looking now, you are going to have a very unhappy workforce. Two, Kenya is going to be a very unattractive destination for investors. We are not going to compete with countries that have friendlier taxation regimes. The pain that we are going to cause Kenyans, when you balance it between raising money for a country to operate and having a workforce that is well motivated to deliver, does not make sense at all. I'm not an economist, but the way you are taxing Kenyans, you're actually reaching a point where you want to create a revolution. Because when did we last see a salary increase on Kenyans? And don't be cheated that the people who are going to be victims are the rich. No. We have so many low-earning Kenyans who are going to become victims of this taxation. How many people operate taxis in Makueni? How many people operate taxis in Keroka? These are not rich people. These are guys who have worked so hard to buy a taxi worth 600,000, 800,000, and you're going to again start taxing them. Remember that the same guys are again going to be taxed for housing. The same, successive years. I think
UDA is being very insensitive, and I'm getting a feeling like they are tired of governing. They want to serve one term and go home. That's all I can conclude.
You know, looking at Nigeria, right now everyone has gone to the streets. There is blackouts in Nigeria because people also are decrying the fact that they're taxed heavily, and the cost of living is getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. It's going way through the roof. I'm not suggesting that that's the way it should go, but has the situation also come to that particular? You know,
this is public. The report that was presented before NADCO. I have a copy. If you challenge me, I'll give you a copy. It actually says that the level of stress and mental health issues within the public service has shot up by more than 98%.
98%?
98%. The level of suicide cases within the public sector has shot up. Look at the number of police officers committing suicide. It has shot up. So it's because the maths on the table, the bar, cannot add up. People are not able to place food on the table. You have a government that does not care. You have a National Assembly that has gone roguish, that is no longer acting in the best interest of the people. Because these are things we can see. We had a meeting last week, the bar, and the Parliamentary Service Commission presented, you know, they gave a dummy of how a payslip of a worker is going to look like after all these taxes are implemented. And we were in shock. A dummy. We were in shock, you know. These are guys you can see they're having car loans, they're already running mortgages, and they did that calculation based on what they were earning then. But a government is coming in and saying, notwithstanding the commitments you have made on your payslip, we are going to come after your money without caring as to what is on your payslip. And they told us, before you give somebody a car loan, before you give somebody a mortgage, you calculate and look at the money that is going to remain to support this guy to meet his daily commitments. Yes. Yeah, disposable income. But the government does not care. We are being very insensitive, and I think if we are not careful, Kenyans are going to go to the streets. We are pushing them to the wall, and the only option they will have is to go back to Article 1 of the Constitution, invoke the sovereignty clause of the people. They move to the street to protest against these taxes. I want to make an appeal to my friend, the Member of Parliament for Molo, Kuria, who chairs the Finance Committee of National Assembly, to really reflect, go back and reflect, act in the best interest of the citizens of this country, not to become, an agent of the executive, but to become an agent of the Kenyan people. There are some taxes I have no issues with. The 10% excise on public package, that's okay. Increasing import declaration from 2% to 3%, that's okay. I sympathize with people who use M-Pesa, but increasing taxation on M-Pesa, I think by introducing 10 to 20% on money transfer, I mean, that's we can bear with. But there are some taxes that have a very direct effect on the payslip of Kenyans that we should tread on very carefully.
Indeed. Yeah. And of course, before we hear from Dan Maanzo, we have Matatu Owners Association, who are urging the government to rescind the proposed motor vehicle annual tax in the draft finance bill, that is 2024. The association's, I think my audio is still acting up, Chairman Albert Karakacha has stamped the tax capped at a minimum of 5,000 and a maximum of 100,000, I should say, as a threat to the country's budding automotive industry, according to Karakacha, due to payment of other taxes, including fuel levy. Businesses stand to be negatively affected. The association has vowed to oppose the Finance Bill 2024. Let's just listen in.
Pay other taxes. If you go to fuel levy, we are paying taxes through fuel levy. Still, even in insurance, we are still paying taxes. So we are just telling the government that that 2.5% as the association, we believe it cannot support we cannot be able to support it, because the same vehicles are the ones which are carrying the hustler. So we are urging the government not to put that 2.5%
as a bill. We will not support it at all. We will continue doing the road safety all over the country. We've even urged our members to make sure that every month they'll be doing a road safety clinic in each and every county.
And then, of course, we have the American Chamber of Commerce as well, and other voices who are declaring the fact that that should be reversed maybe to 1.5%. That is the motor vehicle, the annual tax, the circulation tax. Dan Maanzo.
Yes, first of all, I want to say that, you know, the Unda government, the Ruto government is living a lie. You know, it is common, you know, knowledge and basics that, first of all of us want to pay taxes. And even and that's why Jesus, the great teacher, said, pay unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. So we all want to pay taxes, and we understand that all nations are run on taxes. But now when you overtax, and when you are insensitive about taxation through the finance bill, what happens is that you kill the smaller businesses. I want to say that public service cannot employ everybody, and it's not the biggest employer. Mm-hmm. The biggest employer are private businesses. It's a private sector. And now when you kill the private sector, then you are going to send a lot of people jobless. So, you know, like if you have you are running a taxi or a Uber, you have employed 1 or 2 people. If you are running small businesses, you have people you have employed there. But the moment you overtax and kill these businesses, then now you are even going to reduce consumption. You see, nowadays there is no traffic in town in most parts of the month. Mm-hmm. Because people have, you know, the high cost of fuel, so they prefer to work from the houses, or they prefer to take a Uber, mm-hmm. or prefer to take a public means. And therefore, then you have the purchase of fuel goes down. And therefore, the taxes you wanted to collect from fuel, you don't collect it. And finally, the country makes a loss. You are trying to look for jobs for people. You are not creating the environment to look for jobs for people. The investors, or the foreign investors, have run away to Rwanda and Tanzania. And most of the warehouses in industrial area are closed. Those Asian origin businessmen have moved to UK, they have moved into other countries. And all these warehouses which used to employ our youths are closed. So where do the youths go? And it's really, you know, sad that Dibal, when you are talking of the 2024-2025 finance bill, public participation. There is no public participation. It is cosmetic public participation. You take it to the people, in fact, you are misusing public resources. The people, Kenyans are very brilliant. You know, the people in parliament are not the most brilliant people in the country. The people in leadership are not the most brilliant. There are many other Kenyans who are talented in different ways, but they haven't gone for politics. So when they give their views in public participation, and these views are not taken on board, just like the way the Matatu associations have spoken, and the Matatu businessmen have spoken, and they're investing for the smallest person who doesn't yet have their own car, and therefore they have to rely on Matatu to travel. You know, the moment you disengage, or the moment you have public participation, which nothing is taken on board, mm-hmm. it amounts into dictatorship. The Honorable Kuria is just an image. He's not the one talking. Mm. So the finance bill is and will be passed. The way it left State House was rubber-stamped at Treasury and then rubber-stamped at Parliament. The people's views did not count at all. Now, the Constitution is very serious on public participation. And when you do public participation, it must be taken on board. If there is nothing you are taking on board from the views of the people, and you end up just passing the finance bill by force through the National Assembly, then that is total dictatorship, failure to consult, and the government is being run by a few selfish people who want to misuse everybody, not even for their own benefit. You remember when President Kibaki came to power, people volunteered to pay taxes because they had hope. And then President Kibaki made the taxes work. Mm.
he was, you know, he made sure that whatever the people did and whatever money is raised, the roads were done, and the people are very happy to build the nation together. But now you have a nation of a few who don't want to listen to anyone else, only their ideas count, and I think this is very dangerous for the country. So it has come to a time now, all of us should build the nation together. And this starts by listening to the people. If you have bought a car and you have taken a car loan, and the loan was taxed, and the salary you are using to pay the loan was taxed, how will you then come and tax the car? It's like the poll tax of the colonial days. Every house had to be taxed, irrespective of, so long as there is a grass-thatched mud house, you had to pay tax for it in the colonial days. Now this is what has been brought back by the Ruto administration, whereby now you have to tax every single car which is on the road. Please think about the buses, think about the matatus, think about the taxis, think about the Ubers which are serving Kenyans, and Kenyans have to move from one place to another to do business. And therefore, when you kill the economy through taxation, when you kill small businesses, when you disorient the hustler, the person who lives below $1, then there's a very big trouble. And I can assure you the people living below $1 a day are suffering most. You know, if you have, the more expensive the vehicle, the less the tax. So if you have 17 million VX, the person running a 1 million Pro Box pays more. Therefore, we have to make sure that we take care of the people. And that's why the UDA government is running a lie. It is living a lie. It's administrating a lie. It is a high time the views of Kenyans were listened. And the truth of the matter is, there is no National Assembly, there is no parliament. It's just a rubber stamp of the executive. And all those, the Kuria brains, Kuria is a very brilliant MP. Dede Nyoro is a very brilliant MP. Ishungwa is a very brilliant MP. But their brains, they're just being used, their talent, their goodness, their popularity, it's just being used to misuse Kenyans through the National Assembly. They're the only ones selling the Ruto agenda. They're the ones mobilizing people to vote for such a bad law. So therefore, Kenyans now must wake up and look at their own MPs at the eye. Are you going to the house to betray us? We voted for you to serve us, and now you have become a betrayer. So please, Kenyans, look at all the MPs in the country who are going to vote for this finance bill, whose your own input has not been taken into account, and the ones who are going to be bought, because that's what happens, the ones who are going to be bought to vote for the finance bill. Look at them and please make sure in the next election you don't give them a single vote. Look for honest, independent people who can go and face the president and tell him, Mr. President, on this one, you are wrong. The people have said you are wrong. Please change it. Let's listen to the people. Look for that sort of MP. Don't look for a member of parliament who is going just to be dictated what to do, whereby a debate is a sham. You know, Honorable Mugeni is a very well-researched debater in the House. But all his input in the House is reduced to nothing by the bribes from the executive. And therefore, you cannot run a country on bribes. You cannot have bribed members of parliament.
But you've never proved any bribery claims here. Maybe some...
We can give evidence. We now need to put CCTV.
Documentary evidence will be nice. At least
inside the chambers.
No, this is a very serious, of course, session where facts, you know, runs the day. So when it comes and you make claims like that, that are very atrocious.
Do CCTV in the chamber, then you will know how this bribery takes place. Or even be forced, or even be intimidated, or cajoled. You remember?
Why is he asking?
The obvious.
When we won elections,
I've never seen any ever. No, it's a hearsay to me. I've never seen.
We had majority members of parliament. Where the rain started beating us is when we allowed people who were elected to act as buffer zones in parliament. There's mere coalition at the majority number of elected members of National Assembly. Till Jubilee was raided and people moved to government side. And this was a plan that was urged then to ensure that we weaken an institution called Parliament so that any bill that comes sails through. You know, Maanzo is telling you here that we come up with fantastic amendments. During the housing levy debate, Maanzo was in the House. And I brought amendments that were speaking to that team you call Hustler, the Hustler Nation, sympathetic to the poor person down there. People who are vulnerable, people are suffering, including an amendment where I proposed that anybody who is terminally ill, you have cancer, okay? You are earning a salary as a teacher and you are terminally ill, you should be exempted from paying housing levy. You are a person who never knew, you never thought that one day there will be a UDA government that will come up with the taxation. You have taken a loan to buy a house. You are age 55. You are about to retire. I said, exempt this person. He's 55. He's trying to put his house in order. He's retiring in another 5 years. You're introducing this tax. He will never benefit from that contribution. And I thought I was very, very reasonable. Even Galwale said, for once, Omogeni, I'm with you, but I don't know whether I will be able to vote with you because of the instructions we have received as a party. That's what he's telling you. In civilized jurisdictions, if you go to the US, Dibal, a bill like this will attract serious debate. There will be concessions. You don't need to meet a very aggressive majority side in the National Assembly. You should meet a majority side that is willing to sit down, engage in a discussion, and then you midwife a bill that is fair to the public. You know, what Maanzo is not telling you, you copy taxations from countries that have already done the basics before you discourage Kenyans from owning vehicles. Motor vehicle circulation tax, the origin is a tax that is meant to discourage citizens from owning vehicles. Because one, the government has stepped in and provided an infrastructure that allows you to move easily. If it's the UK, the government has a fantastic train transport network. Currently, you saw Sunak telling the British that have even come up with, I think he calls it the 6th lane, that takes you from most parts of London to Heathrow Airport by train. So you don't need your vehicle. You don't need your personal car. The train will deliver you from to any part you want. Now, if you are telling Kenyans working in Nairobi that we are introducing a tax to discourage you from using your motor vehicle, what is the alternative mode of transport? There is none. You go to countries like even Spain, students going to school have a card. They purchase a card for 1 month, and there is public buses owned by the government that take these children to school, okay, every day. If that government tells you we're introducing a motor vehicle circulation tax, a punitive tax for you not to drive your car, you don't oppose, you accept it. In Kenya, is there public transport? None. The government does not operate any public transport that you can say, people living in Githurai, your children will board into that government vehicle. It is safe. It operates on time. If your child is supposed to leave at 7, that bus will pick you, drop you in town. If you are living in Eastlands, the train will be operating from 5 all throughout the day, every 10 minutes. That's not there. So before you introduce this tax, Dibal, go to that country where you're trying to import this tax from. Look at what that government has done. The government has already made it easy for you to move. The government will move you, if an example was to be taken, the government will move me as Omogeni from Nairobi to Nyamira by train. So I don't need to drive a car. Joe Biden, the current president of the US, for all the time he was a senator, he had a train taking him from Delaware to Washington every day. Does Maanzo have a train that will take him to Makwet? Even you don't. So what is the incentive of coming up with this punitive tax of telling Kenyans, we don't want you to come out with your vehicles, when you have not provided an alternative? I think this government is behaving like they are tired of governing. They just want to tell the Kenyan people, we are daring you to send us home. So in 2007, they are making it easy for Kenyans to move to the ballot and reject them and send them home. I don't think, even if you want to be unreasonable, you cannot be unreasonable to this extent, Dibal. Introducing taxes that don't make sense, you know. And there's a government officer who once told me that they're actually shocked how we behave as members of parliament. When they make these proposals, they do them as a way of just creating news, imagining that when they reach the floor, they will be rejected. To their utter pleasant surprise, they find that members of National Assembly actually vote for them. They get shocked. Like this one is something, somebody just wanted to make news, say, let's make a proposal on motor vehicle circulation tax. And then you find MPs are moving along with it. They get shocked, you know. And a level has reached like where we were sometimes in the US, where the public engineered an amendment to the Constitution saying that there should be a term limit for members of Congress because they were passing bad laws that were not acting in the best interest of the people. I think where we have reached, if you speak to Kenyans, when we go back to our counties, though we don't vote for the finance bill, people cry. They tell you, please, when you go back, make sure that law does not pass. But unfortunately, I'm a senator. We don't vote on the finance bill. And as Maanzo has told you, the government will put in place mechanisms of whipping people. I don't want to use the word bribes, but they will put in place mechanisms of ensuring that that bill is passed. The view of the public, the common mwananchi. This guy running a taxi, I've given you an example. The poor Kenyans you see running taxis in downtown Nairobi, the poor people running taxis in Mombasa, will next time, if they are not able to take a comprehensive cover for their problems, they take what we call third-party cover, because that's what they can afford. How insensitive can you be? How cold can you be to the people you lead? That as a president, you again want to come and punish that kind of Kenyans. You know, people in UK who pay this tax, they make more than £6,000 as taxi operators in a month. A tax person in Kenya here, if you are lucky to make 70,000 a month, 70, that is gross income. That's where you will put food on the table of your family. That's where you will pay your house rent. If you are lucky, your motor vehicle repair will come from that. And because of that difficulty, these guys take a third-party insurance cover, which you pay how much? Is it 7,000 for a third party?
Almost 8, and then in case of an accident?
In case of an accident, you will not be compensated for that vehicle. Now you are telling this guy that before you get that insurance, you are going to pay 2.5% of 1 million. That's how much? 25,000. No, actually not 25. 2.5% of 1 million is 25,000. I mean, how insensitive can you be as a government? Is it that Ruto has lost touch with the people who elected him? Or is it that he wants to tell us, mimi nimechoka na uongozi.
I wanted just to show you.
Mimi nimechoka na uongozi. 2027, bye-bye Kenyans.
Right.
This is painful, Dibali. It's very painful. And I'm talking to you because me, I interact. When I go to Keroka, I have friends. Even when I leave this show, people watch your show, they will call me and say, unatutetea. You're talking on our behalf. Why can't Ruto listen? Does he even not watch that show? Yeah. These are Kenyans we interact with. If I'm given a chance, I can put them in a bus and I'll bring them to Nairobi. These things we are speaking are real. They're happening. I can bring you teachers who have given me pay slips. I have them on my phone. Who are saying, we have worked so hard to buy these vehicles. Now you are telling us again to start paying another tax. We will not afford. These are Kenyans. I'm not speaking about people who live in London or in New York. They live in Keroka, they live in Nyamira, they're in Nyansiongo.
All right, I know we'll come to this. There's a new development on the tax, but I wanted just also to keenly look on what we have on the front page of the Star, still on the finance bill. Because we have a new battle, as they're putting it here, for Ruto and Rigathi. Before, it was not the current state of play, like we can see the rift that is developing. When it comes maybe to passing this finance bill or the debate, do you think you'll be given a sporting chance and there won't be issues maybe of bribery, as is being claimed here by Honorable Dan Maanzo? How is the rift going to play also during the debate of a finance bill? Because we have factions now within UDA.
Yes, I want to tell you that a good example is the avocado tax, which was passed by the National Assembly, which was passed by members of parliament from avocado growing zones. And then you pass a tax against your own people. And when you went for public participation, you did not even tell those people we are going to be taxing you for the avocados and for the nuts and everything else. Then when you want to implement, the member of parliament say, no, I never saw this in parliament. First, I want to encourage members of National Assembly to read the bills thoroughly. Take time and read a bill before you vote for it. You cannot just be elected, you don't participate in debates, you don't read the bill, and your work is just to come and vote because the executive has said we are voting this way. We really want members of parliament. So what is likely to happen in central Kenya with this rift and most of these taxes affecting business people and farmers from central Kenya? It will be very fatal for a member of parliament to vote against their own people. You know, if when we collect these taxes, they were working for people, it's a different story. But people are getting overtaxed. The debts are not being paid. The roads are not being built. The hospitals have no medicine. The county's money now, you know, money for the counties has not gone for 3 months. So the county government officers have not been paid for 3 months. And if a governor has to pay, a county government officer, the governor has to borrow money from a commercial bank. We also borrow it from commercial banks here as a nation. So you borrow, you create debts, you overtax, and then the money doesn't work for the people. So where is the money going? It must be in a few people's pockets. When you do the roads, they have been done very poorly. You know, although you have the quantities, you end up with a road within 1 month, it is cracked up, or 1 year at most, and the same contractor is back, and it's a colluded contractor. So whatever monies we collect from Kenyans, if it were working, Kenyans will have some hope, Kenyans will persevere, and the Kenyans will wish for a better day. But the moment you collect taxes, and then you don't work for the people, they don't see development. The development is only on the talk. The development of President Kibaki was through actions. President Kibaki never promised, I'm going to do Thika Highway, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the roads to Nakuru and Mombasa. No, he got into work, utilized the taxes, and minimized corruption. So first of all, the country now must be first invest in fighting corruption, because we are creating 10 billionaires and are having 50 million poor people. So that difference is very dangerous. The moment you don't work for the people, you overtax, you kill small businesses. Overtaxation also creates high crime rate and a lot of stress with the people. The young man who was fighting with a policeman, that is just stress. He's been stressed, you know. He's in a country where he's unable to make a profit with his matatu. And then on top of that, the police frustrate him further. So you are already dealing with very high stress levels in the country. And actually, what the Ruto government is doing is courting a revolution by the people. The Ruto government is courting a revolution by the people. You will push them. You see, the parliament was supposed to defend the people. Parliament in totality is supposed to check the government. You cannot have a parliament which is in bed with the government. Then you leave the people at the mercy of judiciary. You know, if the people like Omutata and others will go to court, that's what's going to save the people. Omutata now has become the defender of the people and has become like parliament. So we need a parliament which is alive, can kick, and can defend the people. And what is going to happen in central Kenya, I think, now that we have only 3 sellouts. You have, you have Dindi Nyoro, you have Kuria, and you have Ishungwa, the Kamodos, the new Kamodos. They're the ones benefiting while the rest of the people suffer in central Kenya. You kill the avocado farmer, and central Kenya people, most of them don't seek for employment. They create employment. They do businesses and hire people. Now, when you close their businesses, when do you take all these youths in central Kenya and in Coast and in Kenya who should be working or doing something useful? So we are expecting serious trouble from the voters of central Kenya themselves, leave alone Rigathi. The people themselves. Rigathi is only talking for the people. His people are suffering. He must respond. He's supposed to be a deputy president for the whole country. But charity begins at home. How can you go become the deputy president of the whole country while your own people cannot sell avocados? While your own people, you have promised them improvement on tea, coffee, and now even Muguka, and nothing is happening. So we need a national debate to make sure that Kenyans now go back to the tent and agree on how to run the government profitably. The government is running at a loss, and is no longer serving the people of Kenya, but serving a few individuals.
Also with that, of course, we have a specter of unemployment. And at a time Kenya and Africa at large is struggling with high youth unemployment, thought leaders have called for a policy shift to reduce the unemployment gap. The African Economic Research Consortium plenary session of the 6th biannual research workshop noted that economic opportunities for African youth, women, and the population as a whole can expand by leveraging technology and promotion of youth productivity in the informal sector.
Economy is growing, but people have no jobs, and the youth do not see any prospects for going into the job market. With large expansion of the informal sector, as we saw in the previous session, whereas we should be migrating from the informal sector to the formal sector. So it's a challenge. We need to have discussions around this issue. We need to see what researchers have uncovered, new evidence that can guide our understanding on why this problem has persisted over the last more than 50 years.
What is clear is that we'll have an increased number of youth coming into the labor force. And there are projections out there that indicate something like by 2050, more than 1/3, the correct number is something like 25%, of the workforce will be in Africa. So we need to prepare for that. And that is why the conversation today is so very important. Understanding not only the problem today of informality, the problem today of unemployment, etc., but also what needs to be done in order to provide meaningful employment for the youth that for sure will be coming into the labor force.
Indeed, and of course, that is the sentiments or the sentiments of the think tank leaders there regarding the current state of play of unemployment. And looking at this, maybe also the youth are beginning to ditch their degree programs to go to the TVET diplomas as it is right now, where we can see there is great opportunity in that particular sector where some of the jobs were looked down condescendingly upon. Now they're taken to be the plumb jobs of the future. We're talking about plumbing, we're talking about woodwork, we're talking about, of course, mechanics as well. All that's tucked away inside the TVET diplomas, where we have now most of the students who qualified for university programs opting to go for the diplomas. So what is the way forward, and how will it open up also this particular sector as well? And just allow me to cross over quickly to the Daily Nation, where as we talk about the current state of play of education, HELB has not been allocated adequate funds to issue loans to all students. Harsh reality of new varsity fees. And it says funding model was students and their families are being forced to choose university course they can afford rather than those they qualify for and aspire to study under the new funding model and introduce the model that was introduced last year. An investigation by Nation shows this particular predicament. Meanwhile, first-year students who were fast to use the model have already accumulated huge fees balances, which are set to increase even further as they progress. We take a short break right now, and of course also I'll tell you the story of a new development on the fertilizer saga, where we have the Law Society of Kenya, who they have moved to the